Just don't whisper.
Don't whisper.
You know,
Moira,
for her.
you need to overcome the whole shyness thing, okay?
Yes, I've always had a struggle with that.
Right. What was the term in the 50s? The shrinking violet. Yes. Well, Moira Walsh, as I said, is no stranger to social justice, and she's no stranger to the coalition. We first met Moira in the run-up to her first term election, running in the State House for the General Assembly. She was one of those folks that I like to talk about as being a 5 or 10 year overnight success. Her politics are firmly rooted in the streets of Providence. What I mean by that is working with Jobs for Justice. She worked engaged with people in the community, found connection with people in the community, and worked on everything from, well, civil rights to employment rights here at the, in particularly in the restaurant business here in Rhode Island. Taking that connection with the community, she took it to the next level and has built a political resume that is difficult to challenge here in Rhode Island. Moira's the type of person, well, you know exactly how she thinks. And that's one of the issues we're going to talk about tonight. You know exactly where she stands on any given issue. There's no doubt, there's no confusion, and if that doubt or confusion exists, well, it's really, quite frankly, perpetrated by people who, well, like to sow discord rather than provide solutions. She's a single mom, and her son is well known as the tiny human. He's not feeling too well tonight, so, and the travails of any single mom or mom out there, we all know how that works, how, well, what's the technical term, discombobulating that could be to one's already strained schedule. She comes to us today to talk about the blowback, if you will, in the days both revolving around the disclosures of House Speaker Mattiello's issues with the Board of Elections and campaign finance, but also on a positive note, to give us an update on where she stands on certain issues and what she's looking forward to in the remainder of this legislative session and, her upcoming re-election. Moira, welcome back to the coalition.
Again, Pat, thank you for having me, and I appreciate you finding a way to make it work even when the technical gods are stacked against you.
Exactly. Now, let's put it this way. Let's get the kind of the elephant out of the room first, and we'll go on to the important issues. And not that Speaker Mattiello's issues aren't paramount in a system wherein the honesty and the fair play is so critical in elections, particularly at this moment in Rhode Island's time. You issued a Facebook post this week that challenged not just your party, but I think people of all political backgrounds to understand that fair play must be the rule of the day. And in doing so, you asked really everyone to look at themselves and look at the organizations they're with and hold each other personally and within your own party to the same high standard that you would hold your opposition. Is that a fair synopsis?
I like to think so. It was one of the things that I requested of anybody who I was seeking an endorsement from in my previous election was always hold me accountable. Always tell me when you feel like I am not doing enough or could be doing more. And it's something that, I really try to hold myself to as well as my colleagues to. I recognize it doesn't necessarily make me the most popular person in the room. The analogy I used on Facebook was, if you're on a team and your quarterback is doing some dubious stuff, like you don't want to run to ESPN and tell them, and I get that. And we are part of the Democratic team. But that being said, I'm a citizen first and foremost. I sought this job, this elected position, specifically because as a regular person, I wanted to know what was going on up at the people's house, what was going on in my state house, what my tax dollars were being used for, what my representatives were really doing for me. And as just a regular person up in the state house, I still don't feel super comfortable calling myself a politician. Maybe someday. But as a regular person up in the state house, I feel responsible and almost obligated to tell all the other regular people what's going on in their state house. The reason I ran a business is because I wanted to know why my community was being neglected, why we were having such struggles with, insolvency and, the pensions being bankrupt and all these, long-term issues that we've had in our state. And I don't feel like it would be wise or honest of me once I get there to stop making these observations and to become part of the apparatus that, keeps the state house like Las Vegas. What happens in the state house stays in the state house. And I don't feel like that's how we should be appropriating people's tax dollars. I feel like we should be as transparent as is physically possible. And that, personally is why I stood up and made the comment, because if it were somebody on the Republican side, we would be so quick to jump up and tell them that they did wrong. But when it's somebody on our own team, we're expected to sit here and let the Republicans and the media take care of it for us, and I don't abide.
Now, let's be clear, that post is still up there, isn't it?
Yes, of course it's still. Listen, I am frequently wrong, but never in doubt, Pat. And so I don't backtrack on any of my stuff. Because I frequently speak my mind, I frequently stick my foot far enough in my mouth to choke on toast. But I also believe that you should take responsibility for the things that come out of your mouth, and therefore I don't know that I've ever taken a controversial tweet or post down. It's not my style.
No, absolutely. I've found you bracingly, refreshingly honest, forthright, and at times when need be confrontational, at times when it's more appropriate, conversational. I also want to clear up something, and this is a challenging area because I think it's important that people's personal lives, particularly if you're in elective office, be held in a high degree of privacy. I'm not comfortable, as I like to talk about when I mentioned Gina Raimondo, the fact that I know her children's names means I know too much. You have never shied away from the fact that your first love, responsibility, loyalty, fealty is to the tiny human, isn't it?
Absolutely. My son Malcolm is 98% of the reason that I ran for office.
Mm-hmm.
I always used to say that, how am I going to look at my son and tell him that men need to respect women if I, as a woman, am not standing up and demanding that respect? I take Malcolm to the state house all the time. I joke that because his father voted for Trump, I don't actually know where my son's political affiliations lie, and so he's not allowed to vote yet, but maybe someday.
Well, let me jump in there. If it makes you feel any better, my children have significantly overcome the fact that I'm a libertarian. Okay, so very, very often your progeny, your children, will act in direct opposition to their father. Okay, so hopefully that makes you feel better.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It could really go either way at this point. My loyalty is always to my son, and taking care of him is always my number one priority. It's why I push for good education, infrastructure bills. It's why I push for daycare. It's why I, push for livable wages and things like that. And so, honestly, I could not bear to leave him with somebody else while I was in session yesterday. So I made my mother come over and watch him because I knew that she was the only person that would take as good care of him as I would. So I was invited on Tara Granahan's show this morning and had to bring my son to the pediatrician to make sure that he was getting better, which is something I absolutely do not apologize for. My number one job is to take care of my son. My number two job is to take care of my community. And then, political entertainment shows fall somewhere in like the 9 or 10 regions on the list of like top priorities. You, I will always make time for, but that's just because you're special.
Move by.
Moving on.
There you go. No, again, and we appreciate your time here on the coalition. No, I think that puts to bed certain issues. You stand firmly behind your statement regarding the disposition of the speaker's case/situation.
Think about it this way, right? Is that, I mean, the campaign limit is $1,000, which for people in higher echelons is probably, a bigger obstacle than for people in my socioeconomic status, right? I got most of my campaign money my first race by asking, every member of my giant Irish Catholic family for $15 or $20.
Right.
And so a cap doesn't really impinge on my ability to run campaigns. But what it does is it makes it a lot easier for me to stack up against a political incumbent like I did. If my political opponent had spent 70 times the legal limit on his campaign, I would surely have lost. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's because I would have been less capable of representing my district. I don't think it would have been because I had knocked fewer doors. I think that when you flood a small area with that kind of money, you give yourself a really distinct advantage, which, is kind of a class warfare within itself, right? What you're saying is as long as you can afford to pay, the fines or pay the money back or things like that, you can spend, an exorbitant amount and put your opponent in a position where they cannot physically win. And that's not what democracy is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about the merit of your argument, the decency of your policies, and your work ethic. The reason that we put these caps there in the first place is to try and even the playing field so that regular people like a public school teacher, Marcia Ranglin-Bassel, or a taxi driver, Ramon Perez, have just as much of a shot as somebody like Gina Raimondo or Majority Leader Shekarchi, who have a lot of money at their disposal. We don't live in an oligarchy. We don't live in a kleptocracy. We need to consistently remind ourselves that all government is local, and if we're not holding our local officials accountable, then we don't have a right to complain about not being represented to our satisfaction.
So as we enter this election season, clearly there are folks who have approached the Board of Elections hat in hand over far less egregious circumstances and quite frankly have borne the full brunt and fury of the election system. My personal experience with the Board of Elections is very, very good. I found them very, very easy to work with. And they've, quite frankly, full disclosure, gone out of their way to train myself and folks that I'm working with to be accountable and yet at the same time be accurate and make the system as accessible as, a complex system, quite frankly, as accessible as possible. But people have expressed concern because other folks who have gone after breaking the rules have not met with such a warm, cuddly reception, have they?
I don't know the hierarchy there. I will say that I've had nothing but pleasant interactions with the Board of Elections. They definitely hold me accountable. I filed quarterly late once and paid the fine. I have provided them with extra information when they've asked for it. For the most part, if you're cooperative, they're very, reasonable people. And I don't necessarily think it's about the Board of Elections. I mean, they have to handle every single race from soup to nuts. And I imagine that, that is, really taxing. It, a lot of it is on us as candidates to want to be the best that we can be, to want to be as transparent as possible, and to want to ensure that there's no kind of gray cloud hanging over our reporting, whether it's illegal or just suspicious. I know that there are a lot of people who don't write checks, period. They only use their campaign cards so that there's a, never-ending paper trail. I know people who take, every $20 donation that they get and refuse to put it in aggregate. They list out, the donors for every single dollar, and that's, very reflective of who they are as politicians and who they are as people. But I think that, it's on us as citizens to make sure that this doesn't happen again, to keep eyes on this situation, to not accept the bare minimum of our state and our government. I think that we need to, again, hold ourselves and each other to a higher standard than we're doing right now.
Let's move on to
Just
some.
looking at the amount of people who have dropped out on the Senate side specifically with their various alliances. We're supposed to believe that nobody knew anything about any of the dozens of people that go to jail on any given year, and it's a lot of it is that we maybe need to start paying more attention. If there's a consistency in us not noticing that our brothers and sisters are not following the rules, then isn't that on us?
Mm-hmm. Let's take a couple minutes out. I know time is tight. Let's take a couple minutes out and reflect on really the important issues here, and I appreciate you clearing the air on that, because and when I read your statement initially, I was quite frankly, I was impressed. I was enthralled by the fact that you were willing to make a statement, quite frankly, that no one in leadership had at any level, and make it really, and I thought, you made a difficult statement in a positive manner. It wasn't filled with sort of the hate rhetoric. It wasn't filled with the noise, the white noise.
Right, and I'm not going to assume somebody's intent. You know what I said? As I, you know what I mean? As I said, I don't, whether it was illegal or not, there's now a gray cloud that's going to be hanging over everybody's fundraising and everybody's reporting. And if we are all going to be tasked with the consequences of these dalliances, then, we should all be working together to shed a little light on them. Because it's not fair to the people who do things right. It's not fair to the people who, turn down the excess money that goes over the limit, that work twice as hard to get the amount of donations because they're doing it the appropriate way. It's not fair to the people who are, doing it the right way, for us to say that we're just going to look the other way when somebody makes an error that egregious.
Right. Can you bear with us? We're just going to take a quick break for just a second. Joining me on the line is Moira Walsh. I'm just going to step back into our control room for just 1 second. So anyway, Maura, let's talk briefly about the upcoming session. Or what's left, I should say, of this session.
Yeah,
if you were to give this session a report card grade so far, where would you rate it?
I'd say we're at like a B plus right now. We haven't really been voting on a lot on the floor. I'm very proud of the common sense gun control measures that we passed. I'm looking forward to seeing what the House does with the budget. I think that there are a number of issues in the governor's proposed budget. But that being said, I think that so far I haven't seen any really detrimental bills get through. I haven't seen anything with any really intense debate even yet. So far I think that we're on track to get some good work done.
Okay. What's coming up that's important as far as you're concerned?
Child care credits, home health care workers, raises for CNAs. I'm really hoping to see a nurse minimum bill that we've heard in health education and welfare a couple of years now. I'm really hoping to see that pass. It also, this year, I made a promise to the people in my community, and as one of my top 3 pieces of legislation that I hope passes, I chose Representative Anastasia Williams' bill, which makes it illegal to discriminate when providing housing based on credit scores, which I think is going to really open up some huge opportunities for people in my community. A lot of times your credit score is not even remotely reflective of who you are as a person financially. We know that they last a lot longer than the credit grievances that got us a poor credit score in the first place. And I think that that making it so that landlords and renting facilities can't use your credit report alone as a reason to drop you as an applicant is really going to be something that brings more equity to the renting experience, particularly in low-income communities like mine.
Okay. Well, what I'd love to do when a certain someone's feeling a little bit better, literally in the next couple of weeks, because it's important that we continue this conversation while the session is taking place. There are so many important issues. I was disappointed, quite frankly, last night to see held for further study at the Senate level the civil property rights issue, where the government is absconding with people's personal property in a measure that prior to any reform is clearly targeted at the working poor, clearly targeted at people who can't afford themselves the right type of legal support, and clearly, when we're talking about civil property rights, no one should lose their car or their home or their standard of living or anything because they couldn't pay a parking ticket or they couldn't pay a fine, which so often I call it a circle of economic violence, where someone misses a payment, someone's caught doing something, sometimes out of inability to pay, they can't pay their taxes, they lose their right to drive, they're unable to go to work, and then one day they're caught and it becomes a criminal act. We have a state here that seems hell-bent on criminalizing people of lesser means. And
So what I find very, very interesting about that is one of my colleagues on the House side has introduced a bill that would allow employees to put a lien on their employer's property if they were owed wages and their employer refused to pay them.
right.
And it was suggested that that was not legal. But then how would the opposite be?
Oh, exactly.
And so interesting how we're always, very intent on protecting the people with more assets as opposed to the people with less assets.
Right.
I know I put in a civil forfeiture bill this year that very interestingly enough, the Attorney General was against, but the state police were for. So go figure that one.
The world knows no boundaries when it comes to our state's Attorney General's office. I'm
Like you would think that the law would be kind of like a uniform thing across state agencies, but as it turns out, that's not the case.
no. In the halls of justice, as we like to say in the coalition, justice is in the halls. Your ability to negotiate yourself out of as former Mayor Cianci would have said, out of a frittata, is clearly based on your ability to hire top-notch legal talent, the right accountants, the right campaign workers, hint, hint, all right, or maybe the wrong campaign workers. That's okay. But again, dares you not pay a parking ticket, dares you not be able to afford any one of the owner's taxes levied on people in the state, and quite frankly, your life becomes hell. Because eventually, the capacity exists in the state where you can lose everything.
You know, this is coming from somebody who, in my very humble opinion, I've only been up there for 2 years. I don't, by any stretch, pretend to know everything about good governance. But I will say that personally, my goal is always to strike a balance between protecting the people from themselves and protecting the people from the government. And it's something, that I strive to do in good government. So, an assault weapons ban is something that, protects the people from themselves. Whereas I put in a bill that states that marijuana and the medical marijuana program can never be included on the pharmaceutical database.
Right.
As a measure to protect the people from the government, so it's always it's trying to find that balance between, making sure that your community is safe, but not stepping into that weird big brother role of I know what's best for all of you.
Right.
So, still telling the line.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Like I said, I'm glad we were able to clear the air. Your statement was welcome, and as is your attitude about governance in general. Like I said, let's plan in the next few weeks getting you in studio so that we can spend an hour or so really going over what's really important, which is legislation, growing an economy so that all can benefit in a state where people's civil liberties are respected. That's your goal, that's my goal, and I think we all work alongside a lot of good people who want to move past what I call the outrage porn and get to making Rhode Island a better place again for families. So, as always,
Thank you again, Pat, for having me, and, good luck with the rest of your technical difficulties, but I would be, delighted to come on once Malcolm's not trying to infect everyone.
There you go. God bless you. Moira Walsh joining us remotely through the miracle of Skype or something, whatever we've got going on here. She'll be joining us again in studio. Folks, we're going to take another quick break to fix our technical issues. We are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn free, civilly disobedient media. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.